Thank you,
Thank you,
snowboarding.
snowboarding.
Hey friends, how you doing? My name is Chris Cracknell. You are listening to Thank You Snowboarding, the podcast celebrating UK snowboarding culture, past and present. Hope you're doing all right out there. We are sponsored, is that the right word? We are looked after, let's say that, by our kind friends at the Snowboard Asylum, who have been looking after snowboarders and snowboarding in the UK for the last 35 years. And we are very happy to be looked after them also. So how you doing out there? This week is part 3 of our Dragon Lodge trilogy with the man himself who started it all, John Bassett. Now, it's quite hard talking over this track by Deep Purple because it's so hectic and evokes so many memories. Hope it does for you too. But we'll get to that at the end. John Bassett, I guess out of all the guests we've had on, mine and John's kind of stories are the most, well, John's story is the most relatable to mine, if that makes sense. We used to have the Chill Chalet in Bourg Saint-Maurice, and John obviously started Dragon Lodge a few years before we did up in Teen. So I guess kind of a lot of the sort of trials and tribulations that we've been through are fairly similar, and it was quite mad when we were talking about how many sort of memories and feelings our chat unlocked for me. Like, my brain was working on overtime, going, I remember this, I remember that, and John really understands what it's like to obviously run a chalet in the Alps and how it all works and how difficult it is. I mean, we bowed out before Brexit, and that's caused probably an unimaginable amount of work for John and Will. And yeah, I think maybe we bailed at the right time, maybe. Or maybe not. I still miss it very much. And being up at the Dragon Lodge in Teen really made me remember how much I missed looking after guests, welcoming snowboarders into our house and looking after them, going down to the cave with some beers and showing people how to wax their boards, and then taking them up on the mountain and filming with them and making little videos of their holidays. Kind of all these things that I'd sort of collected some dust for a while in the old memory banks, sort of got shaken up a little bit. So the trip to Teen was quite a reflective time for me, really, on a big part of my life. Did my first season up in Val d'Isère, so riding some of those runs and thinking about the 19-year-old version of myself was quite a thing. And so, yeah, this chat with John really sort of did open up a lot of things for me and made me think about an awful lot of reflect more on a large section of my life, which, you know, is a good thing, I think. I kind of hit a big age milestone a few weeks ago, and seems like a bit of a good time for a little bit of reflection before carrying on moving forward. So yeah, John Bassett, absolute legend, started Dragon Lodge, has kept it going for so many years, keeping a really cool culture of welcoming snowboarders out to the mountains, making sure they do it in the right way, get the right kit, get the right advice. Him and Will Hughes run it together now, and what a great place it is. If you haven't been out to the Dragon Lodge and you call yourself a snowboarder, then that needs to be at the top of your bucket list of places to go ride. Teen itself is massive. Teen and Val d'Isère, I mean, just what an enormous ski area, and because of its elevation, the snow is always pretty good as well. So yeah, a brilliant conversation, this one, with one of the mellowest, sort of softly spoken people that I've done an interview with, I think, since Stuart Hamilton on episode 2 of season 1. But I really enjoy hanging out with John. We actually live quite close to each other in Brighton, and I'm hoping that this sort of unlocks plenty of reasons for us to hang out some more in the future. So yeah, more ramble at the end, and but let's get into it now. John Bassett, Dragon Lodge. Let's do it.
I think you'd been going a year before we started Chill Chalet.
Okay, when did you start?
Right?
So we started...
It's been about 2000, 2001, something like that.
No, so the first season of the Dragon Lodge was the 97-98 season. So I think the Christmas and the lead up to the December, we were still kind of sorting the place out, and we had mates out and then family. So our first guests were probably... Guests who weren't friends were probably January 1998.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So I guess the only other real, and you can obviously tell me I might be wrong, but yeah, certainly an inspiration for us was Chalet Snowboard. They were like the pioneers of that snowboard specific chalet holiday.
Yeah, for sure. When we started it, or one of the reasons we started it, so Chalet Snowboard was around.
Yeah.
And the season before it, so we'd done a few seasons over in Teen, Val d'Isère. My brother did one in Teen, I did the end of that one in 93, 94 maybe. Then we did a couple in Val d'Isère.
Right.
Then 95, 96, no, 96, 97, my brother, because I think he met, who was it, Jeff Parr, who's a Netley Swansea boy, who he was down in Lizard in Borg.
Yeah.
He was in Tip Top,
right,
talking to Alan, who you'll know.
Oh man, shout out to Alan.
The legend of the local scene.
Alan and Izzo, shouldn't forget his great missus as well. She's brilliant.
I know, yeah, they were great, weren't they? It's a shame they're not there anymore. But he bumped into some riders there, British riders, and one of them was this guy Jeff Parr. I think. And he was opening, or had just opened, a little place over in Paisley Nanquart called the Free Ride Motel.
He did that with Ryan Davis's dad.
And I'm forgetting his name now. The guy who used to run Project Distribution in Bristol.
Don't know that guy.
Sorry, Andy Jennings. There was the three of them that owned that, and O got a job with them. This is my brother Owen. He got a job with them the following that season, so 96, 97, to run this lodge. And I think they were just opening because I came over and the showers weren't tiled. I came over in like this sort of time of year, December, and I was like, do you want me to tile the showers?
Yeah.
Could get it ready, because I think they had first guests at Christmas weeks. So I basically did that, and in exchange, had this little kind of cubby hole to sleep in. They basically were like, well, you can just stay for the season, or as long as you want.
Yeah.
I didn't do the full... I did about 10, 12 weeks there, back and forth to the UK, because we were thinking about doing something
right
like the lodge. But that actually gave us not sort of the idea. So it was Chalet Snowboard, and then that. And the great thing about that was did that with an Aussie couple who were running it. And at the end of that season, he got an idea of how those things worked.
Yeah.
I photocopied all of their receipts and the kind of costs.
No
and we
way.
went back to the UK, and I kind of went through my stepdad, introduced me to a bank manager that he played golf with. And I went to see this guy, and I said, we've got this idea to do this thing. And he was a skier, and he was like, snowboarding. Yeah, I've heard about it. My son's just talked about this new thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's not. But yeah, anyway, yeah, cool. So can we borrow some money to start a business to do this thing?
Yeah.
And he said, right, yeah, have you got a business plan? And I said, what's a business plan?
Of course.
And he gave me a business plan pack. So I went off and filled it in with all this stuff and went off. And I don't know, I think he literally was like, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I'll lend you 90 grand.
What the fuck?
I know. So we took that and we bought... it was a business loan, but we went and bought a property, which was the original Dragon Lodge.
Oh, you bought that?
Because it was cheap.
Yeah.
Like, we literally bought that with that money and 10 grand that we'd worked for that summer, because we used to going to go back in the summers and work on building sites, and I'd get jobs like painting, decorating, building, that kind of thing.
Me and you both.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did as well.
That was always the summer jobs, really. Save money, come over, do a season. Didn't work really any seasons. That's the first one that worked that season. He worked for Crystal the first season. I never actually worked out here. I'd always save enough to come out and live in a little shoebox and ride every day.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to keep doing that, but weren't interested, weren't good enough to be sponsored.
Yeah.
Didn't want to work in bars and do all that kind of stuff. Just wanted to keep doing winters, and then thinking like, where would we want to go and stay if we were coming for a week? So that was the whole idea behind, like you, like create a place that like-minded people to come and ride, do it at a reasonable price that enabled us to keep doing this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I worked in a chalet in Val d'Isere, like just washing up on my first season. And I just remember thinking, like, we're doing a lot of things that people don't necessarily want. You know, and kind of, it's quite rigid, and people are sat at the dinner table for hours, which sometimes is nice, but sometimes not. Yeah. Like, if you're knackered after a day of riding, like, do you want to sit and have a massive 3-course meal that takes 2 hours out of your evening? Yeah. I'd rather eat some food and go and watch a movie or something. Do you know what I mean? Or go to the pub. Yeah. And that all sort of percolated in the back of my mind for years and years, because it was just like, everyone's doing the same thing. Like, why is nobody, like, I didn't know what service Chalet Snowboard did, and I wasn't really aware of you until we started, really. Yeah. And I was just like, there's got to be, we're not skiers. Like, we're not the traditional, posh skier. Like, that's not, no one's offering, or certainly very few people are offering a service to.
No, you don't need like canapes and all that kind of stuff. You need like a decent breakfast, and then we'd cook during the week. But it would be at the beginning, especially, it was spag bol, curry night, that kind of thing. Yeah. Maybe 2 courses in those early days when it was us cooking. Yeah. We've always had just like wine. There you go, and not like half a carafe each. Just like, there's some wine. Help yourself.
Yeah. I would just try and. Who was I talking to the other night? I basically would try and fuck people up with food every night. Like, there would be mountains of it. Yeah. Like, my mum is a great cook. She knows how to do. She can smash out a roast, no problem. Yeah. And I think I got that. I like being around people. Yeah. And my gift to them, I can fill them full of food so that they're like, they can't move. Yeah. And we also thought, if they can't move, they're not going to then get hammered and smash the chalet up. So it's sort of like a slight tactic to kind of keep our property in a decent nick, because it wasn't full of drunken people going mad.
Yeah, that didn't really work for us, because it was definitely pretty drunken a lot of the time. But just that thing of like, also the thing of sharing and sitting around the table. And when you get, the first place only slept like 10, 12 people. Yeah. And some weeks it's all one group of mates. But, we've been talking a lot about the old, the shop trip type thing, and whether it was a shop trip or different groups, but you get everyone around the table on the first night, and we do a meal that's a bit sharing. Yeah. So you might do like a raclette, or you might do like a Mexican thing where everyone's like, pass me the rice, pass me this, like serving yourselves.
You've got to engage with people.
Get everyone engaging and talking, let the red wine flow, have some beers on the balcony. Everyone gets to know each other after the first day riding. You might meet some new mates that you can then go out and shred with. And that's always been the idea of it, like, having good quality food like we do now. Like now we do.
Oh, your food's amazing.
Yeah, we do 3 courses, but it's not like, it's solid, it's like, don't have a little bruschetta, have like this nice soup for starters, and then like a nice hearty meal and a dessert, say, if you want it. And the wine is just like, help yourself. You can carry on sitting there and chatting afterwards if you want. But it was that idea of like, where would we want to go? And before that, you either went and just stayed in an apartment, or you stayed in a ski chalet, which is fine. Yeah. But it wasn't what we wanted. We had that. We had the TV over there with all the VHSs where you could just watch all the snowboard and skate movies. Yeah. We had a PlayStation, and we'd go out riding with people as much as possible, and that's what we wanted. So how could we make a living out of that and meet new people and enable them to do it at the most reasonable price? Yeah.
And I spent the season just sorry to put myself into this too much, but like, I just spent a season living with Kenty and Munson and the posh rapper, and I think we only had 4 nights where it was only the 4 of us eating that night. Yeah. People just come around for dinner, and we'd invite people around for dinner, and friends would come and stay. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not doing any cleaning, but I'll do all the cooking, because there's that bit between after riding and eating, where I didn't really sort of have anything to do. Yeah. And I don't want to drink particularly, like, from that. You know what I mean? Like, you just sort of on a season, and especially in sort of the deep midwinter. Yeah. There's not a lot to do.
No.
Like, especially in Bourg-Saint-Maurice, there wasn't a lot to do, literally nothing to do.
No.
So I was like, well, look, I'll do all the cooking because I enjoy feeding my friends and making sure we're all eating properly so that we can go out snowboarding.
Yeah.
And then, at the end of that season, we worked out it was only 4 nights where there was the 4 of us for dinner. And every other night was loads of people. And I just thought, well, I can do this. Yeah. There's something in this.
Yeah.
And then sort of thought about it for a bit. And then when I met Lucy, she spoke sort of some decent French and we talked about it and then off we went.
Yeah. But there was a lot, that's the great thing in that era. So like you say, I was inspired by those ones, Chalet Snowboard, Free Road Motel, which was there for a bit. And then like a load of them started coming up. Like there was you guys, there was a couple there was like Fresh Tracks in Chamonix. I think I heard you talking about that the other day. You'd meet them all at kind of, I remember going to Bordex and there were a couple of other people doing things like
handing out flyers and just trying to sort of do it on the like we fucking printed all our own flyers.
Yeah.
Spent hours like with a cutting board, cutting them out, and then you go to Bordex, hand them out, and then like
they're all over
10 meters down there on the floor, and it's like fuck.
Did exactly the same, like just guerrilla Bordex, just went in, hung out with mates, saw what was happening, handed all these flyers out, saw them all on the floor, thought, oh, that's just terrible. And then, because we like that first season, it's like, how do we promote it? It was pre-internet.
Did you ever do a brochure?
Well, the first season we literally had literally a flyer like you. So we were almost like, because we went to buy a place and we looked around the Alps. We looked at like Bourg-Saint-Maurice, Les Arcs.
Right.
We weirdly went and saw a place in Valmorel.
Oh yeah.
Which was really brilliant, like chalet, freestanding. Would have been really interesting. There was a really cool snowboard shop over there. So there was a little snowboard scene. And we were literally almost on the verge of signing for it when the woman pulled out.
No.
And the estate agent was so like mortified that she found a few other places for us literally that day. And we came up to Team where we'd obviously done seasons. And she's like, I've got this apartment, but it's apartment chalet. So we thought, oh, luckily it was great for what we wanted. And luckily it was in Team because I think Valmorel would have been a bad choice long term.
Long term, yeah, probably.
But I've forgotten where I was going with the rest of that story.
Did you have a brochure? I think
no, didn't have a brochure because we got it late. We made a flyer.
Right.
Went to Bordex, gave them out, and then what we did then really was I got all the skate and snowboard shops in the country from like looking at all the mags, got them all out, got the address.
It was easy, wasn't it? Just go through a snowboard mag and be like, there you go.
Totally. There's
a mailing list.
There were some you'd know, and you just get them all out, made a list, got envelopes, put a little letter in, sent them 50 flyers.
Yeah.
In the letter I said, this is what we're doing. If you or your shop staff want to do a shop trip to come out, I'll give you a free place.
Yeah, I think we did the same.
And that's what filled up like the first couple of seasons. We'd get like, we had the City Surf Boys in Cardiff, we knew, and we had a few other people. But we started building up relationships with a couple of shops that were like skate, surf, snow shops. And a lot of the people were like us, they were riders who were like working there. They're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get like either mates or like a few of the members of staff. And as Mon was saying in his one, you do that and it gets a crew together. They all want to buy the gear from the shop. They all
exactly.
come out
It just
ride.
makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Like then your customers become your mates. They're only going to shop with you. They're never going to go anywhere else.
Absolutely. It builds the scene wherever they are.
Yeah.
They come out and see the mountains either for the first time or whatever. They become regulars of ours. They come back later with other groups of mates.
Yeah.
And it built a real little crew around that. So that's how we first advertised, really, before. The second season, we had a little A5 fold-over rubbishy paper flyer. And the year after that is when we got a bit more pro. We had a trip out here with the guys from Lowdown magazine, who I'd met at... I might have met at Bordex, actually. And the Suicide, do you remember Suicide, that clothing brand?
No.
Kind of surfer dudes they were.
Right.
Anyway, Gertz Werner came out.
Oh yeah, I know Gertz.
Gertz came out because we met them at this thing, and he was like, "I'll come out and like you can get an ad in Lowdown for free if I can come out with some riders." And they came out last week of November when the Glacier used to be on.
Yeah.
And he brought 2 young riders over with him, both called Nick, and one of them was Nicholas Muller, and he was 16 years old.
No way.
And they did this piece for Lowdown. It was working like he was lovely, and just saw him riding. And I remember Gert saying he's going to be big, and we were like, I can believe that. Yeah. But the guy who was with him, Mark, he's a graph artist called Mau Mau. He drew our first logo that week because he came with him just to ride.
Yeah.
And then Gert said, "Oh, you should meet my friends, Badger and Mariah. They run this like design agency in London." So I went back and met them with this logo, and Nathan Gallagher was working in the office with them.
No way.
So that lot designed the first proper brochure.
Yeah.
With photos by Nath, the layout by those guys, and they've become mates of mine forever. So, and then they used to come every year, and they did. Yeah. We used to then do brochures every year, which we'd hand out and take to Board X, take to the ski show, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think we just caught the cusp of. We never had a brochure. Like, obviously, we gave out some flyers, but we went straight in on a website. That was like, people were like, "Where's your brochure?" And we're like, "We've got a website." And we're like, "What the fuck? Like, what? Yeah. How's that going to work?"
I mean, we did a website. I mean, I think maybe actually those like Rich and Mariah and Nathan helped me build the first website. Nathan did actually quite a bit of it.
Like pre-Dreamweaver. I can't even remember what it was.
It might have been Dreamweaver, actually.
I know I did one in Dreamweaver, but there was something before that even that I can't even remember.
I literally, when I started the lodge, I definitely hadn't been on the internet. And when we started the first year as well, we were like, we can't really afford this with both of us just living out there. How are we going to promote it? So that's why I moved to Brighton, because I thought, I'll go and do a degree in Brighton. Right. Because it was the last year I'd been living independently, so I had no money, and it was the last year where you could get a full grant, housing, everything paid. So I thought, I'll go and do this like really interesting philosophy degree in Brighton, have a base where I can set up a phone and fax machine. And
where people can send you checks for their deposit.
Oh man, yeah. I had a bed sit, and in the corner of it, I had a phone fax machine. And then I'd go to the university in the first term, and I went into the computer science place and said, "Excuse me, where's the internet? Can I?"
To the box over there.
How do I get on the internet and get an email address?
Yeah.
I got an email address first. So the first year definitely didn't have a website for the first maybe 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then we had a website. I still did brochures for years because all those shops still supported us. I'm going to say till the mid 2000s, I'd do a cool brochure with a nice photo. Like someone was talking about Tyler last night. We had Tyler on the cover.
Yeah.
We had like one of the first ones was like Martin Addison, who was a local rider who died.
That's right. Yeah.
Had him on the cover of one of them. We always had a good photo from someone like Nathan or like Jamesy or someone like that would give us a photo that we'd use. Oh
man, this is unlocking things to talk about. So you just unlocked a memory of the day we put our website up.
Right.
I remember exactly, sat in my dad's office, there was me and Lucy, and we sort of uploading it. It's like, does it work? And something went wrong. And just remember it being like so exciting. But then that led on to a memory of waiting for our first guest to arrive, our first ever guests. Because, you start this thing, and I don't know if you had the same thing, but you start this thing and people send you money, even though you've not,
checks.
Yeah, we didn't have any photos of the place yet because we hadn't been out there and done it up. So people were I think they were friends of friends or whatever. And then, we were ready. And then you're sat waiting, and it's like, is this fucking real?
Yeah.
Like, are these people real, and are they going to turn up?
Yeah.
And then sort of somebody said, "I think I've seen your guests in Tip Top," and you're like, oh, fucking hell then, and then they finally turn up, and all that anticipation and all that build up.
Yeah.
And then you're running a chalet company.
Yeah. You're straight in. As soon as weirdly, it's almost the same now. Every season I get a little bit nervous. It's why I like to come the first week, because I'm not here all the time.
Yeah.
The first week, you spend that bit of time before it every year, and it's obviously more at the beginning. But you're kind of doing all the admin, you're getting everything ready, you're like doing the maintenance and stuff, and then you're kind of, the moment it's on though, and they're here, it's just like boom, sorted.
Yeah.
You're in. And there's obviously all the things, the ups and downs and stuff, but when you're in it, you're just dealing with it. It's the anticipation and the kind of nervousness before is actually quite exciting every year.
It is. I used to be excited every year. And like every year you try and do, add something that you didn't have before. So, that you're always sort of moving forward.
Yeah.
And it is exciting. And then the other thing I was going to say is about when you sort of mentioned Tyler and Martin Addison, being in Teen is definitely, and Teen being a place where a lot of people did seasons.
Yeah.
And I think that, we had a bit of that shine as well in Borg. it got more publicity than just your publicity. Do you know what I mean? Because there's lots of photos of Teen in the magazines.
Yeah.
But that, you know, is that a thing? Do you think that helped as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think like that thing I said, well, we were really close to starting the business in Valmorel.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing, like kind of sliding doors moment.
Yeah.
That really, like another good sliding doors moment. So we did a couple of seasons, me and my brother and my mate Andrew, just really quickly. We saved up all our money every year. And then one year, so before the 94 one, Wales were really close to qualifying for the Football World Cup. And we had our money for the season. And my mate Andrew especially, who we'd done the season the year before with, was like, if they get through, I'm going to go to America.
Right.
To follow Wales in the World Cup, because they hadn't been in the World Cup since 1958. And me and my brother were like, ooh, you know, this could be big. So we had all our money, and it was down to the last game against Romania.
Yeah.
And we lost 2-1, but there was a moment where Wales had a penalty, and Paul Bowden hit the crossbar, and it bounced out. So our life changed on the width of a crossbar, that sliding doors moment where we didn't qualify, didn't go. So all three of us, Andrew included, did another season. My life, if I'd chosen that day to go to see Wales at the World Cup, it might not have happened.
I thought it would happen. This conversation is fucking unlocking so many things in my brain at the moment. Because I guess probably out of everyone, like, our stories are sort of pretty similar. Like, we've had a lot of experiences that are same, even though we've maybe not talked about them before.
Really similar, and also based in the same general area.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's mental that we haven't actually
ridden together,
spent more time, or just generally like not talked about it more. I was saying this to Will on his one. It's like, why didn't we, you know, and we're down there was nobody else doing what we were doing down there, so you don't have any of that. So didn't have anybody else who understood sort of just some of the things that you go through every day, and like, you know, tricky guess or all that sort of stuff. Yeah. It's like, you guys were here, why didn't we just chat to you more? Do you know what I mean?
I think if there was mobile phones and stuff in those days, we'd have been texting and doing that kind of thing. But the thing is, we were aware of each other, because there was definitely, I know that there would be times where people would come and stay with me or ask if we had availability, and I would always, if we were full, I'd never say no. I'd say no, but try Chris down in Bourg, try the guys over at in Morzine, try these guys over in Chamonix. And I know I got bookings that you or Lucy were like, oh,
yeah, we definitely put people on, because like, I don't want, if someone's in the loop, I don't want them going out the loop. No, I'd rather they go and stay with friends who are sort of, you know, ploughing the same furrow,
doing the same
than
thing,
going off to Ski Val or, you know, one of those silly companies.
Exactly, and people also,
maybe never coming back just because they got a super good deal and it was a bit shit, but they can deal with it, you know.
Exactly, and also, you know, I really appreciated the fact that people would come to Teen, they maybe come a couple of times and they want to try a different resort.
Yeah,
and they'd say to me, "What's Les Arc like?" And I'd say, "It's great. It's really good. If you're going to go there, go and stay with these guys."
Yeah,
like, what's Sham like? Oh, it's different. It's like this. But if you're going to go here, here's 2 places to go and stay. And if you're full, sometimes I'd say to someone, "We're full. Go and stay with these guys." And then 2 years later, I'd get an email or a call saying, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me. A couple of years ago, you were full.
Yeah,
you recommended this. I had a great time. I always remembered that. Have you got room this year?"
Yeah, yeah.
And it would keep people within that little infrastructure of like 5 or 6 people doing similar things to us.
I mean, I do that now when I get like an artist who wants to work with me, or, you know, if it's not my thing or I haven't got the sort of availability to do it, I don't just say no.
No.
I'm like, okay, right, speak to these people.
I still do it
Speak
now.
to this person, because I just think the community building aspect of it, I mean, which is what you've done amazingly here. Just being around that table, it's all, I mean, I know it's sort of friends and family week, but people have been coming here for years. Yeah. It's like their first, why are they going to go anywhere else? And that's incredible to build that up. That's something else. Do you know what I mean? There's a different level of something happening.
I'm really proud of that. And you know, we wouldn't be going if it wasn't for that. I mean, I couldn't tell you what a percentage is, but it's definitely, you know, a third maybe of our guests every season are return guests, like proper regulars.
Yeah.
I had an email just yesterday from a guy who said, "I came here 10 years ago, and I want to come back again this year. I haven't been since, for another big anniversary. Like, I came for my 40th, I want to come for my 50th. 2 of the people who were on the first trip met that week. They're bringing their kids."
No way.
I know, it's a wicked one. He's just booked for a week in February for 10 people. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
Nice, you know.
Gives you a real buzz, doesn't it?
It does, and then real regulars like this week, yeah. Most people have, I think everyone here apart from Dave has stayed before, and you.
Me, yeah.
Actually, John hasn't stayed before. But everyone else has stayed before, you know, and that's really great. These first couple of weeks of the season are always kind of similar. This one will be more people I've invited or like people who've stayed before. Then a couple of weeks where we always do stuff with Neil McNair and James Stenterford and their courses. Loads of them have stayed before. Loads of them are regulars with those guys. So that community aspect of it really starts off nicely. And has always been something like from trying to get the shop trips and stuff. That's what you need to do. I've never done Google ads. I want to have people I don't know, but I never take a booking. You can't do direct booking with me. I have to speak to everyone, talk to them, make sure they understand what we are, because we're not for everyone.
Yeah.
We're not like 5-star, you know, kind of like canapes served on caviar. We haven't got a hot tub, you know, it's not, some people want a bit more, but those who get it, and you can tell that from a few emails or a phone call, they really get it, and it makes it, I want everyone to have a great time, you know.
Did you ever get involved, you know, like when Chalet Finder came along and all of a sudden there was, you know, we certainly felt for a period that, you know, we had to be on that, but it meant that you literally had to be online all the time. As soon as an inquiry came along, you had to jump on it because there was 100 other people. And that was sort of like when the joy of it started going for me. I felt like we were fighting against everyone just racing to the bottom. And we felt we had to, I mean, looking back now, I don't think we did have to chase those bookings, but we sort of did.
But it's nerve-wracking though when you're doing it on the scale that we do, because it's so close, like the margins, like the amount of money, you know, you'll know I don't make a lot of money out of this. I do it because I love working for myself. I love going snowboarding. I make just about enough to live.
Yeah.
But it's close, it's tight. So I could see that. We didn't actually ever do that. I've never used any agents apart from Claire, who's, you know, like a friend locally who runs an agency.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that have us on their site. But even with them, if they get an inquiry, they have to fire the email over to me so I can double check that they're not. You know, like I've had people I've turned away, like a family will ring me and say, I want to come this week. And I look at my booking sheet and say, I've got 10 guys from a skate shop in Cardiff staying that week. And I'll speak to the guy and say, look, for both of you, you know, if you come, they might be lovely. They will be lovely. Yeah. But they might be wanting to have some beers late at night and you've got 2 kids who are 7 and 8. If you think that's great, we can deal with that. Brilliant. But if not, you might have a bad time. That crew from the snowboard shop might feel curtailed.
Yeah.
And I've had people who've said, I appreciate that, I won't book with you this year, and they've come back the next year at February half term when we've got 5 families in, you know. It's important to make sure the mix is good so that everyone can have the best time.
Yeah, totally.
Not just do it for the cash.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're sat here looking out the window. I'm looking up at the Grand Mott.
It's a nice day, isn't it?
I mean, it's an iconic place, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, did you ever feel like going, let's open up Dragon Lodge 2 somewhere else and sort of expanding your operation a bit? Was that ever a thing?
No, not really. No, we did think like, so somewhere else. No, because Teen from the beginning was like, we'd done seasons here, or Teen and Val d'Isère, so we knew it. We did know it was going to be popular. It was popular with the Brits, especially back then.
Yeah, there
was that scene, as we were saying about. So when we got here, we didn't really know the scene. That's the thing. We'd done like maybe we'd done 4 seasons. We started to meet a few people from like the scene more when O worked at the Free Ride, because we met like youngsters like a young Ryan Davis and people like that. But by the time we came here and started the business, there were a few people here, like Marcus Chapman was here, Nelson Pratt was here. Yeah. They're the ones that we met first. Over in Val, there were people like Will, but I didn't really know Will then.
Yeah.
And I kind of started to get to know the scene a little bit then. But those riders and the fact it was in the mags, it was in like Snowboard UK, it was in White Lines because those guys were here and they'd come and do trips here.
Yeah.
That really helped. So we didn't think about moving anywhere else. We did, 1 year we had a second chalet in Teen.
Right.
And it was a bit of a disaster.
Okay.
Just because I think it's always been run by me and my brother. Then my brother left to go to New Zealand for a season and then went to Japan and never came back.
Yeah.
So I did it. Then my friend Dan, who I grew up with and did seasons, he was working for me. So he then became my partner for X amount of years, and various other friends worked for us, including we moved chalets then, and then Dan left, and I had a friend who was working for me then become the manager. Then Will started working under him.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, well, Will, why don't you become my partner? We've always run it ourselves.
Yeah.
So when I had two other members of staff and we weren't in control every day, and I'm getting complaints because they were being lazy and they hadn't done something, I did it one season. It was really stressful. We had more complaints that year than we've literally ever had.
Yeah.
And that was like 5 complaints from people. I've literally probably had 5 proper, legit complaints over all the years.
Yeah.
Like big things, and they were doing it all the time, and I just closed it down. So no. And I love teen still. It's brilliant.
And obviously Will's a big part of it now. How do you sort of make that decision to sort of give some of your business to someone? Like, how not just employ someone, but actually be like, no, come on, let's forge this path together now. We're sort of linked inextricably. Well,
because like I said, I met him out here. I knew of him, saw him in the magazines, knew he was riding. There were other riders like Nelson and that lot who were good mates of mine, but they rode like they were always off building kickers. And as I got to know Will more, then he started. A lot of them, like all of that crew, would come and work for me on like snow clearing or airport transfers, and we'd just feed them. That's how I kind of met people like Josh, Ryan, Will, all of that lot. And then Will started working a bit more. Then he became like under my friend Glenn, who was running it, and Will started working here as like a chalet host.
Yeah.
But once he started running it like that, I could just tell that Will, A, he's my mate, B, he's down for life for being here, and C, he really cares. Like he's, like really like keeps it clean, does the extra hours. Sometimes I'm like, go out riding. He's like, no, I've got to wait and mop the floor. He cared about it. He did. So I think he started working for me maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, I said to him, look, it isn't the same, because I'm not here all the time. You are as much of the lodge as I am. I know a lot of people call me like John Dragon and it's my place, and it is. But I'm only really here these days 5 weeks in the winter, because I do that Japan trip now. I don't really come here as much. Will is the face of it, and he cares about it. And I just thought, like, I want to keep doing it. He wants to keep doing it. It wouldn't be the same without him. I didn't do it just to keep him. I just thought he deserves it.
Yeah.
And there was a little changing point. Brexit was coming. We had to set up a French company. And I just said, look, man, why don't we do it together? You become my partner. I did it at the beginning with my brother as a partnership.
Yeah.
I did it with my friend Dan as a limited company.
Yeah.
I did it for my own for a little bit when Dan left. And then I said to Will, let's set up a new limited company and run it together as partners and just do it like that. So I mean, it made sense to me.
Yeah, no. It does make complete sense, because that was like the one problem we had was when, sort of life started. I loved running the business, but obviously I had sort of other things I wanted to do as well. And, other paths. And Lucy's sort of career driven and wants to change the world. And he's on her way to doing that as well.
Yeah.
And having what we should have done, we basically got burnt out by just trying to do it all ourselves.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a point where there was one person that we probably she would have lived out here, and we could have brought her into the business, and we didn't do that. And I was saying to Will when I was interviewing him the other day, I was like, basically we needed a Will.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Like, looking back, that's what we needed.
Yeah. So I was super lucky. I mean, I pretty much know every single person who's ever worked for me still. I mean, we've got some of them staying this week, But Will, I've always worked with friends. I think you always can if you just treat everyone with respect, and everyone's being good. Some people have got a couple of years in them, and just the fact that I know that Will just loves. He's not just doing seasons. He lives in the mountains. He wants to live here,
doesn't he?
People sometimes say, "Oh, you're doing another season." Well, he's not. He lives here.
Yeah,
year round, and he loves snowboarding. And he is a really good host, and he cares about it.
Yeah,
he cared about the lodge. Like, you could just see that. And he's a mate, and I'm like, I want to work with people that I know and like, and get on with. So it's like a joyous thing to be doing it together now. And we went, I offered him half the business. We did that in 2016. What a great time to do it. Brexit's happened. Do you want half of this business? That's probably going to go out of business. But we got through it together.
And teen seems to be less, I don't know about now, but certainly back in the day it was, I don't know if I was talking to you, I mean, it was definitely Val d'Isère's sort of scruffier sibling back in the day. And I don't know what it's sort of, obviously it's sort of smartening itself up now. But those places seem to attract the snowboarders. Like Les Arcs isn't a big glitzy resort. More, Morzine, maybe more so, but there was a lot of English sort of expats as it was in Morzine. Do you know what I mean? Lots of little chalet companies and things like that. And so it wasn't like these big glitzy places.
No, those combinations are right. So like, Teen was definitely the sort of like slightly scuzzy sister of Val d'Isère. Morzine had a Voriaz, which had like a really good French snowboard scene. A combination of a good snowboard scene and maybe like not quite the poshest place. Was what has attracted snowboarders, because it was a bit cheaper and because we were more aligned to that. We didn't want places where there's Versace shops on the main street in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff. And to this day, I suppose,
I mean, with all resorts getting smarter and with, obviously someone downstairs was talking about like the cost of a lift pass in America, like 300 quid a day or whatever it is. Like, how does, obviously all resorts are moving on. They all try and sort of straighten themselves up a bit. Things get more expensive. I mean, has that changed the people that are coming here?
The people that come to the lodge, like, it's because we've got so many regulars and we've been doing the same thing and we're known for what we do. They haven't changed so much, except maybe the age demographic has gone higher from when we first started. So we'd have like, the snowboard and skateboard shop crews that are coming 20 years later with their families. But the resort is changing, and I think a lot what is happening across all the Alps is there are, global warming is happening, small resorts are closing, people want to come to the higher resorts. Those resorts can't really infinitely expand the amount of beds they've got. So what I can see they're doing is the lower and mid-range places like us are dropping by the wayside. There are less of the British chalet company model type thing where you all bunk in together and you have a good time. There's more high-end hotels. They're looking for the more high net worth individuals. The prices are going up, which is a real shame.
Where do you see that ending up? Because, I mean, we'll come back to the climate change thing just because I'm sat looking directly at the glacier right now. But how do you, where do you see it all ending up? Because do you think people will just sort of gravitate towards these smaller resorts, these less known resorts, and leave the big ones alone? Like, I mean, is anyone going to Courchevel anymore? Really? Because it's sort of become so ridiculous.
Well, people are, but it's those people, isn't it? And the kind of people that we are talking about and are maybe listening to this even, it's never been a cheap thing, but it's becoming more expensive to do it in these big resorts. And I appreciate some people are like Teens, like, not very pretty, it's a big mega resort. And there are loads of really great little resorts that you can go to and get a bargain priced holiday for a week's riding, and you can have a great time, but the season will be shorter and the snowpack is much less reliable these days. So you've got to be, especially if you've got a family, you can only go certain weeks. If you can be like, it's on, let's go next week, great. So I can just see that happening more. And as I say, the smaller ones go by the wayside. In France, there are X amount of small resorts closing every year. These big ones will be the ones that will, like, it could be great for our business, but we might be priced out as it's harder for us to survive trying to do what we're doing in the middle of all of this.
And I mean, I guess, I don't know what your summers look like, but obviously there used to be camps and whatnot up on the glacier, snowboarding, freestyle snowboarding, all through the summer. The only time I'd stay with you before was because I was here for Matt Barr's birthday and they were doing some photo shoot or whatever, and like we're all up on the glacier and there's some jumps and and I mean, that's good times. But I mean, I don't know when it was, a few years ago, sat at home and I saw somebody sent me a picture of the glacier, and it made me want to cry how fast it's changed in such a short amount of time.
Two summers ago, I was out here, me and Will and Scof, and a friend of ours from Lax was over. We rode the first opening day of the summer, and it closed after the first week.
Right.
When we started the lodge, so 97, it was still open 365 days a year.
Yeah.
And for the first 5-10 years, we used to, the summer had the park and the pipe, and we'd have the board test out here, and it was, I could, I wish I'd taken a photo every year. We used to be able to see the tongue of the glacier coming over the top of that launches lift now. There's a cliff to the side of it. They've lost 30 to 40 metres of permafrost on that glacier, the Grand Mont, and it's now, it did open for a couple of weeks this year. I've literally seen that happen in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
It's real. It's
and obviously then the effect, the impact that has on your business, because are people still coming on holiday here and just pretending that the glacier is nothing and just doing mountain biking? And
the summer business is a long time ago. We used to have summer camps and stuff, but not for at least 10 years. The summer business now is all about, it's really good here in the summer for mountain activities, mountain biking, lake walking, that kind of stuff. We mostly rent self-catered with a bigger French market in the summer who come here with their families and spend the year doing just mountain activities. So it's lovely. There is a business. It just keeps us ticking over. Yeah. There's no snowboarding or skiing in the summer anymore, really.
No, it's really sad, isn't it? It's such a majestic.
Yeah.
Obviously the listener can't see what I'm looking at, but it's a big mountain at the end of the valley, glacier on top. It looks great at the moment, but it doesn't look so great in the summer.
No, and it used to be. If you've been for those board tests back in the day were epic times for the British snowboard community and scene.
Yeah.
They were really, really good. We loved that. That week was always amazing. You get 100, 200 people come over for the week and just party and ride the glacier every day.
It's just you have to get up really early.
Yeah, or just not get up in time and just play poker all day with Richie Green.
Shout out Richie Green.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously you get your fix of power by going to Japan to see your brother.
Yeah. Yeah, we do get enough here for sure, but we do that every year, and it's so good to go over there and see him and see what he's doing. So I know you know now, you've seen the boards this week. He moved over there, worked as a guide for a while, and then always wanted to make his own boards. So maybe 6-7 years ago, he started the process, researched it, built a press in a shipping container in his garden, started making prototypes. And they were good, and then he's slowly building it. So it's called Island Snowboards, because he's on the North Island of Hokkaido in Japan, and he's slowly building a little brand, hand-making boards in Japan.
Yeah.
Which we're riding here. They're all really good. He's got 3 models now. It's been great to be a small part of it. One of the models this year will help design, Scope's done the graphic. The first board, we had a little bit of feedback, demoing them, and my friend Owen Tozer did the graphic on that one.
Yeah,
they're amazing boards, handmade with love, growing a brand really small, really slowly, really organically. I'm super proud of him. I think everyone should go and have a look at the Island Snowboards website. Try and get out to Hokkaido, go and try a board. And if you want one in the UK, go and have a look at TSA.
Well done.
Yeah. No, they're great. Honestly, it's amazing what he's done. There's a small community of people all over the world with these little brands that are starting to grow, who really care about stuff and not just getting them made in China. But
again, it's talking about that community building thing.
Yeah.
There's a few people here that are riding them.
Yeah.
Because they've either tried one.
Yeah.
From being here. Do you know what I mean? There's all these layers of community and how these things then get bigger and bigger. Sort of Scope, everyone experiences Scope's work here because of it's everywhere.
It's all you're right. It's the community side of snowboarding is so important. We all know that. It isn't just the riding. We were just talking earlier about, the best days riding or the most fun. A lot of that is the actual riding, but it's who you're with, it's the crew, it's the session, it's the stuff around it, it's the art, the music.
Yeah.
It's like having an affinity to a little brand. So those guys who've got the boards have been to Japan, they've ridden with us. They've then gone to the factory and seen how they're made, and they're like, oh, I can buy this board and you're part of that, and you're, you know, that is, it's like all those things, like what brands you choose to wear or what music you listen to, or that kind of thing. It's part of that snowboard scene that is like, for our scene, the British scene, and all of snowboarding, that is such good fun, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that was, you know, I think that might have been something that was lost. You know, sort of snowboarding's definitely had a downturn. I think it's kind of starting to build up again because people have worked out that it's the community that is going to keep people doing it. And, you know, like, I want to go snowboarding, but do you know, as you say, like, if you were to be put on a mountain by yourself, would you have the best time? I was saying this to Jono yesterday when I lost everyone. And I was like, I sort of rode around and didn't bother doing anything good because if there's no one around to see it, then it didn't really happen. And he was like, that's been my whole fucking motivation through snowboarding.
That's definitely John's motivation, I wouldn't say I wouldn't. I do go out on my own, but I love, like, it is like with skateboarding, it's a session. You know, you're there with your friends. It doesn't matter. You can be like different ability levels. You know, you can be with the crew, like riding pow, or you can be on the nursery slope with a couple of friends who are beginners getting their first turns, and you can be, you know, really joyous for seeing another person having fun. And that is like, that's the base of it, going out riding, having a session on the mountain, in the skate park, in the streets, wherever. That is the joy of it, you know. And I think so. You're right about the community. It's never gone, it's always here, it's changed in fluxes. You know, I think what you're doing is really good for it because it's documenting the history of it, but it's also kind of making people think about it and actually, you know, kind of reignite it again. I think there is a little bit of an upturn at the moment, it seems like, after maybe a dip. But I think maybe that always kind of happens. It definitely happens with skating. Waning and kind of like rising in popularity. Skiing took a big hit in the 90s and early 2000s with snowboarding coming in. But then it fought back.
Massively.
And so there's been a bit of like kind of leveling off, and I don't know. There's also generations like us lot getting into it. Now we're coming with our kids. You know,
this is the thing. I was sort of obviously chatting to a few people about it. It seems to be coming of an age. You know, like Dave Lee was saying this. Dave Lee of Signal Snowboards. When I was chatting with him in Austria earlier this year, and you know, he's saying over there it's just the 90s and everything that came along with the 90s. Obviously, snowboarding went stratospheric in the 90s. He's like, you know, all his daughter wants, she's just raiding his cupboard to find all his old clothes from then, and wearing his t-shirts and stuff like that. And so there isn't, you know, sort of we were talking about, and there's an age, it's reached an age where the people that were doing seasons and everything have now got families, and their kids are maybe old enough that they can get away. And maybe leave their families at home because it's not so full on. So they can afford that little break, or they're starting to take their kids with them and have that joy of then a whole new generation coming in and showing your kids what you used to do and all this sort of thing.
Totally. And I've got to be careful to think it's not just about my generation. People have always been doing it. There is a kind of cultural appropriation that happens, anything with like culture and music, which we know they'll come around in cycles. People have always been doing it, but there is a bit of that. But I think there is something else happening at the airport the other day when I was coming back over. Like, there were a load of like the seasonaires coming in, and for years, because of Brexit and stuff, it hasn't so happened with the British anyway. And this year at the airport, there were loads more board bags. And I know this. Like, for years, I'm like, you wouldn't see any, or there were loads of board bags, not ski bags. And there were loads of young people in their like late teens, early 20s, going to work somewhere, and they all had board bags.
Brilliant.
And there are more riders in town this year, I can see already, than there have been for a couple of years. So it goes up and down. So that crew, it's not like, you know, you have to get out. I have to sometimes get out of my little bubble of my crew and my age. And we're a bit linked to everything. But those younger riders, maybe there is a bit of an upturn, which is a great thing.
Yeah, I think so too. So on that, thinking about snowboarding in your life, tell me what snowboarding means to you.
Oh, well, I mean, it has been my life, like for more than half my life. You know, discovering it from a place where I wasn't part of like a family that was into skiing in the mountains was an amazing thing. And it's something I love to do every day. You know, you've seen that. We're out every day riding. I love it. I do this job so I can continue to do that. It's given me like my livelihood. It's loads of my friends. I've been able to bring my family out here and make them a part of it. And I don't know what does it mean to me. It is a huge part of my life, and it's something I love to do, and it's something I will always do, and I love to also share with others via the Dragon Lodge.
And so, why should somebody who hasn't been snowboarding for a long time or hasn't ever been snowboarding come to the mountains and try it, or get back into it?
Well, because the act of doing it is lovely. When you're in the moment, like in that kind of moment, and nothing else matters. It's like some kind of meditation. You're just there. It feels great. You'll meet some other people from different walks of life who are like-minded in that you will be able to get on with and socialize with, both on and off the mountain. And you'll be in these mountains. I mean, it still never ceases to humble me, like sitting here in the morning with a cup of coffee, or like as we are now, facing each other but with two different views.
Yeah.
Of some pretty epic peaks, and it just makes you feel happy and joyous.
So there you are, an hour in the company of John Bassett from Dragon Lodge. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. As I said at the top, it sparked an awful lot of memories for me, and that's not a bad thing sometimes. As I said, I just hit a milestone birthday, and a bit of time for reflection. I'm not one to reflect on things too much. I'm always sort of looking on to the next adventure or the next project or whatever it is. But to kind of look back and think about 19-year-old self turning up in Val d'Isere with no money and just totally naive, but just a desire to go snowboarding every day. And to where that is now, having done loads of seasons, had a business out there like John's, like the Dragon Lodge, and to now be doing this podcast, celebrating all the good times as a community we've had together. I think that's it was quite a powerful trip, really, and has certainly kind of cemented in my mind that snowboarding is a very important part of my life. And why I'm doing this podcast, really, is because it should be an important part of everybody's life, because it gives so much. Right, that's enough of that. In other news, what's going on? Yeah, more snow's falling across the Alps, which is obviously a good thing. It looks like America's been blasted by snow as well. I've seen some Instagram stuff from the States. It looks like they're not struggling for snow over there, and Europe is certainly looking better and better all the time. A highlight this week is it Rene Radjakangas's new movie is now on our Shredflix playlist on our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen that movie, it is next level. Rene is a nice little dude. Met him in Lax earlier this year, very briefly before he went whizzing off. But this movie is unbelievable. It's the Subject Hackinson. It's the modern Subject Hackinson is all I can say. There's so many things in it that you are just like literally WTF moments all over the shop. Amazing. So yeah, you can head over to our YouTube channel and find that. It should be at the top of the Shredflix playlist. Last week I also put up Danny Wheeler's Skyrocket as well. I think I said about that. I found 2 copies in my loft when I was finding some snowboard kit. And that's up there also. Shout out to Peter, who sent me a whole bunch of DVDs through. No, not Peter, Nigel. Sorry, Nigel. Nigel Birch, shout out to you. Big packet of British snowboard DVDs, like Brush and Brush 2. I'm going to be ripping them sometime this week and posting them up on the YouTube channel, so you can find us at Thank You Snowboarding over on YouTube. Give us a like and follow. And talking of kind of social stuff, the Instagram's still growing. There's loads of old shots. I think today I've just posted a picture of the Red Bull Air and Water, if you remember that event, that was held in Docklands. I mean, who came up with that concept? And who booked Bewitched to play at a snowboarders event? Either a genius or a madman. I have no idea which, but either way. Yeah, unlocking some memories up on the Instagram, but also putting new stuff and highlights of trips we've been on and all that kind of business. And obviously photos from the Dragon Lodge. So this was the third in our Dragon Lodge trilogy, the third and final one, kind of like the Cornetto trilogy. which if you know, you know. Just got to say a massive shout out to John and Will and everyone at the Dragon Lodge. What a fun time we had there. We being me, Chris Moran, John O'Verity, and Callum, I don't know his surname. But we were welcomed in with open arms and looked after and fed, and what a great place to hang. And it was full of great people. It is snowboarders doing things for snowboarders, and that can't be knocked. So if you haven't put the Dragon Lodge at the top of your snowboarding bucket list, then I suggest you get on that right now. Teen is got great conditions, and because it's very high, it generally has pretty good conditions right the way through the season. Obviously the Grand Mott, which is now sadly, as we discussed, not open in the summer really, and I think rightly so. It's a sorry state that we need to be doing something about. The Grand Mott holds great memories for a lot of snowboarders. The park in the summer used to be great fun, and basically it's just hardly there anymore, and they certainly can't put a snow park up on it, and it's really quite sad. So if you're doing something this Christmas, if you're wondering what to get your fellow snowboarder for Christmas, then head on over to Protect Our Winters and maybe make a pledge or do something, support their work. Maybe that's a good thing to do instead of buying some old crap that you don't need. But obviously not buying crap you don't need. If you do need something for your snowboard in your life and it is coming up to Christmas, then head on over to the Snowboard Asylum. I've banged on about comfy boots and all that sort of stuff, so I maybe don't need to go on about that again, or at least not until I go snowboarding again. But the Snowboard Asylum have everything a snowboarder needs to go snowboarding, and they have the right advice to make sure you are spending your money on the right gear. So don't shop online, go and meet some actual people or phone them up, get the advice that you need, and then buy from those companies that support snowboarding. It's really important, because without an industry, there won't be snowboarding. Then we'll be taken over by skiing, and that would be a terrible thing. And then speaking of companies that support snowboarding, shout out to Dan and Lizzie from Burton, who lent me a board to take out to Teen, and for the nice bindings that didn't cause me any foot pain. Shout out also to Chris Carr at Canoe for the hookup with Oakley. Obviously Tom Kingsnorth, who's been a guest on this podcast, for the Transform gloves. Appreciate you all, and hopefully by next week we'll have some news about some more lovely free stuff coming through my door to help me go snowboarding. I always do these things and then forget about what I should be talking about, and then remember at the last minute. Oh, the song at the top of the show, of course. Now, I've been quite remiss the last couple of weeks and forgotten to mention who it is. It is, of course, Deep Purple, Highway Star, from the movie The Garden, the closing section, which is all good stuff. If you haven't seen The Garden, then head on over to our YouTube channel. It's up on there. It is the snowboarders' snowboard movie of all time, I would suggest. And that track is nothing but legendary, and I also happen to have it on vinyl because I'm a music producer and DJ, and I have a great record collection, if I say so myself. So yeah, when John asked for that, I was like, yep, I know exactly where it is in my record collection. You can have that for sure. So yeah, Deep Purple, Highway Star from the movie The Garden. Go and check that out. You won't be disappointed if you've never seen it before. And I think that's it for now. Plenty more episodes coming. We've got John O'Verity locked in. We've got Simon Smith locked in as well. And Maria Cork. We just need to finish that one off. So there's loads more episodes coming and plenty of people lined up. Hope you're enjoying it. If you are enjoying it, please go over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star review and a few kind words, because obviously, as I've said before, there's a few people like JK from Jamiroquai and The Prodigy and Seal, whose names come up a few times. It'd be great to be able to approach those guys and say, look, this is what we do and this is what it means to people. Would you like to be part of it? And yeah, reviews and comments are very, very welcome. So please don't hesitate. It only takes a moment. It only takes a minute. The old takes that song. Well, that reminds me of dancing in a club in Blackpool when Calippo decided it would be a good idea to build a kicker on Blackpool Beach and have a bunch of drunken snowboarders turn up to it. And we were in a club, and I remember Russ Ward, the legend that is Russ Ward, with his T-shirt over his head dancing to It Only Takes a Minute, Girl by Take That. Story for another time. Maybe we'll try and get Russ Ward on at some point. Anyway, I think we're done. Thank you, Snowboarding. We'll be back next week, 10 a.m. Thursday mornings as standard throughout the winter, with more tales of the mountains from UK snowboarders who made it happen. You can get in touch with us at thankyouSnowboarding@gmail.com, or obviously over on Instagram. Send me a DM if you want to get in touch. And that's it. We're out. Peace. See you next week.